Shadow person thread. I had an experience with one, and shortly after, my brother passed away. I told a select few people about it, and some of them said they had experiences with shadowy figures like mine as well, and I've been trying to find answers about them ever since. Has anyone else ever had run-ins with these things? And does anyone know anything at all about them? I'll share my own experiences shortly if anybody is interested. There was one each from my girlfriend, my mother, and my friend's girlfriend. Here's the first one. This took place a couple months before my brother passed away. About 15 or 16 years old, parents divorced, dad lived in Alabama, mom moved to Mississippi. Brother went to Mississippi with mom, visiting there one summer. It's hot as fuck, because coastal Mississippi. Can't sleep because of this. Spend a couple hours tossing and turning with my eyes shut. Open them at one point. Immediately see silhouette in the window. I'm frightened by it, don't move for what felt like forever. Was probably just a couple minutes. It doesn't move, just looks back at me. I look away for a moment, look back, it's gone. There's another window behind me on an adjacent wall to the other one. It walks past the window, towards the window to my brother's room. Lose sight of it. Suddenly tired as fuck, drop off to sleep. Wake up in the morning, nothing seems out of the ordinary. I can't help but feel as if it had something to do with my brother's death. If anyone has answers to that, it would be greatly appreciated. I'll share a few more stories in a bit. This one is from my mother. Brother passes a few months after the first story. Tell my mother about it a couple weeks after he passes. She sounds concerned. Tells me she saw shadow people as a child as well. Until about age 6, every night a shadow person lingered in her room. It never did anything, it just stood there and watched her. Would occasionally shift his stance, maybe walk a little across the room. She said that the figure seemed to wear a hat that looked like the one her grandfather wore. She'd sometimes get scared, and call her dad in. Figure would disappear when her father entered the room. And that's the end of that one. I had no idea what to make of it, honestly. Told my girlfriend about the 2 stories. She shared her experience, but hers just seemed so much more maleficent. It genuinely made my worry about the situation a lot more. Again, this was a reoccurring experience until she was older. Lived in a house out in the country. During the day, it would just get cold out of nowhere. Even in a hot bath, she'd get chills. At night, sometimes things would move on their own. Doors opening, chairs moving, typical ooky spooky shit. Sometimes, she'd be in bed and see a shadowy figure. This one wasn't tall and slender like the others. This one was shorter and stockier. She said it seemed to wear an overcoat. It almost looked like a homeless man. Whenever it appeared, it was accompanied by other figures. They were humanoid, but very small and very thin. They crawled all over the walls, and would dart away whenever looked at. It would stand there and watch while its companions darted around the walls. They moved away, and didn't see this figure or any of the other paranormal experiences anymore. I think this one was the most evil presence I've heard of from people I personally know. It made me seriously worry about all these experiences. Last one. This one I heard very recently. It came from my best friend's girlfriend. This one may be a little inaccurate, because I was driving when she told me the story. Once again, she was very young. Her grandfather died shortly before she was born. Was able to recognize who he was by pictures she had seen. Visiting grandmother for a holiday one night. She slept in a bed with her grandmother. Wakes up thirsty, goes to get a glass of water. Walks to the kitchen and is greeted by a very tall, broad-shouldered figure. Like my mother's figure, this one wore a hat that looked like one her grandfather wore. His stature seemed similar too. They stand and look at each other for a while. The figure starts moving towards her. She panics and runs crying to her grandmother's room. Explains what happens. She leaves for a moment. In the meantime, the girl goes back to sleep. That's the last of my stories. If anyone else has answers or other stories, feel free to share.
My first encounter was when I was 6. I live in the middle desert away from the city, and there was a full moon. I decided to walk outside and enjoy the moonlight, take in the beauty of the desert. I walked out of my yard on this desert trail, and as I circled back, there was what I can only describe as a black foggy mass under the shadow of a tree directly covering the trail. This was my first encounter and I didn't know any better, so I walked towards it not knowing what I was seeing. As I got closer, it became colder, and I felt a sense of hopelessness overcome me. I wanted to just give up. But I kept it together and I tried to walk around the shadow. I looked away for a second to watch my step of the trail, and as I looked back I saw the demon violently form under the tree's shadow. I heard bones cracking and even saw muscles form from the gas, but not from the shadow, but in my head. At this point my heart sank and I started to panic at what I couldn't believe was happening. The worst thing about it was seeing its eyes. There was nothing human left of this thing. Its eyes were like living rage personified. Bright orange glowing eyes. With slits as its irises. Like a cat's eye. And it wore a fedora. But it was elongated at the front, its body was skeletal, like underfed anorexic skinny. Its limbs were longer than normal too. It didn't have lips either, just bare teeth, and horns that curved just perfectly over its fedora. And what made it worse, is that it immediately knew I was scared. And I heard it chuckle. At that point I just acted on primal instincts and ran back home, crying hysterically, causing my parents to call the police to investigate. Didn't find anything of course, but to this day I still have nightmares involving that fucking bastard.
Oh fuck, you mean other people have seen these things too? They're a thing? Freshman year of college. Being a total pro, I have top bunk. Roommate can't sleep without TV on, so I let them. Casually watching the TV as it's on silent when I see my roommate get up from the bottom bunk, silhouetted by the TV. Katie, what's up? Starts to walk away. Never stops being a silhouette. Grows taller and thinner as it walks across the room. It reaches out and grabs the door handle and turns to stare right at me. Right into my eyes. With its shadowy pits. Then it disappears. I play my DS for the rest of the night, too freaked out to move. Thankfully, I never saw it again.
Be me about 17, pretty late about 2:30 a.m. Decide to go pass out. Sleep comes pretty quick. Suddenly my eyes pop open, but I can't move. A shadow starts to form in the corner. It starts to take the shape of a human with a wide-brimmed hat and trench coat with a wide collar. Notice it has red eyes but no mouth, and a darkness was swirling around its body, keeping it in constant shadow. Try to sit up, try to scream, but nothing works. Feels like hours go by when it finally disappears. After it was gone I could sit up and see the sun barely peeking through my curtains. That day I move all my furniture in my room around, making sure that the corner that the shadow man was standing in was completely full of stuff.
I've only ever had one encounter with anything paranormal. Live in bumfuck nowhere, Pennsylvania. Farms everywhere, but close to main road and gas station. About 1.5 miles away. Me and friends get bored and hungry, decide to walk up. By the time we're done eating it's about 11 and dark. Walking home, walk onto road that dips down deep into forest away from fields and any form of civilization. No moon. Pitch black due to canopy of trees. For some reason friend looks behind us and stops. WTF you looking at, bro? Look behind me too. See a 7-foot tall floating dark cloud. Starts about 15 ids away. Within 3 seconds it's about 3 ids away. Suddenly disappears. Me and friend WTF hard. Only time I've ever seen anything akin to Shadowpeople. Been down same road even at night multiple times, never seen nothing. What do you guys think?
I made a thread regarding Shadowpeople, and possible theories on what they are. Here's my story. Back around 4th grade, I was winding down from a long day at school getting ready for sleep. My homework was just completed and I was sitting upright on my bed. I've used to have a Welsh corgi, who recently passed away from thyroid cancer, that used to sleep at the foot of my bed. Now keep in mind that I slept on a second-story floor, and all of my blinds would be closed before I made myself comfortable in my room. I used to keep my closet doors wide open on opposite sides of the room. The dog was adjacent to my feet on my right side. He was contently resting his head on the white railing, which was sort of cushioned, so I guess it was comfortable. Everything seemed undisturbed at the time being. Out of nowhere, his head shot up and his ears became erect. He diverted his attention towards the open doorway of the closet space. This caught my attention at the time. I called his name, waved my hand in front of his snout, and even slightly pushed him a few times. He would not snap out of his sudden trance. So out of my own curiosity, I started to gaze into the closet space. I was thinking in the back of my mind what was possibly causing this. About 10 minutes of unconditionally staring into the wide open closet space, a shadowy figure materialized near the left-hand side of the closet space. This thing walked towards the middle of the closet space, stopped for a brief moment, looked back at us both, the dog and I, and it slightly jumped. It darted towards the right-hand side of the closet. After that little incident, my dog returned to his normal self. It took me a brief moment to rationalize what just happened. After doing so, I ran downstairs and explained to my dad what I'd just witnessed. It was not out of fear, but more of excitement than anything else. I just witnessed my first real paranormal entity.
The explanation for this phenomenon is a very real affliction called sleep paralysis. I don't report this in jest. I too have personally experienced this as a child, although I did not know what it was at the time. As I grew by I would consider the validity of the memory, sometime attributing it to a vivid imagination or perhaps a nightmare, but somehow those explanations still left out. In that doubt I was deeply troubled as I pondered its implications. I say to you, it most certainly did not feel like a dream or fantasy when I was experiencing it. While researching the truth behind another paranormal topic, astral projection, I made the connection. See, it's reported that when an individual is on the cusp of astral travel, they go into sleep paralysis. During that time, I don't know, technically they are like literally half asleep. It is said that when you fall asleep, your body is paralyzed so you won't act out your dreams and possibly hurt yourself. In the astral projection community, it's said that if you reach this state, you may encounter beings that are similarly described as the shadow beings here. It is usually described as a soul-cleaving experience which can result in a reluctance to attempt to project again. Still others claim these entities are helpful, and will encourage you in body exit techniques. Hope this helps.
This one is recent. I was in a stress-ridden stage of my life, months ago. I had tinnitus, and several problems to sleep. Due to my tinnitus, I always use a blank noise to mask my internal sounds. One night, I woke up with several sleep paralysis. I was scared, expecting the shadow to come, but nothing happened. A week later, the same thing happened. I woke up with sleep paralysis. The room was mostly dark blue because the speakers project that light. Artificial rain sounds filled the room as well. And then I saw it. Tall, broad, dark as the night sky, blurred on the borders, with a trench coat/robe. I couldn't see his legs. He appeared out of nowhere, and moved slowly, like a poorly animated Disney cartoon, leaving a grayish translucent trail on the air as he moved. I thought, I know this, I saw it on a movie. I'm going to punch it, but I was not able to move for minutes. He stood there, watching me. When I finally was able to move, the fucker dissipated, leaving me with constant shivers. I tried to sleep, but I let the light turned on.
6 years old. Sleeping with mom that night because of the usual child fears. Wake up in the dark sometime in the AM. Remembers a feeling of wrongness. Dog is standing on the edge of the bed growling with Godzilla hackles at absolutely nothing. Dog is staring toward an empty corner of the room. Suddenly pants pissing scared. Check with mom, she's on her back with her eyes wide open, huge, looking around. Shake her, she doesn't move or say a word. Dog suddenly lunges off bed as though to attack something. Dog goes into a grand mal seizure. Notice a black clot in that corner with a vague human shape. Have a few seconds to shit myself before it just ceases to be there. Mother literally rips herself out of bed moments later. We rush the dog to the vet. 3 years of bullshit later, dog is still an epileptic. Until mom leaves dogs with my dad after a divorce. Dog suddenly stops having seizures. Start seeing shadow people less.
Well, I had another experience with this shape-shifting demon during a nightmare I was having. Started off as a normal dream, then it slowly got darker and darker, till this sense of dread came over me. I turned around to see literally a ball of flesh, molding and churning, like a ball of clay being shaped, except I could see definite features, like eyes, legs and arms being rag-dolled around as it shifted. Finally it stopped moving, and a single red eye was visible staring at me. At this point in time I've dealt with dreams like this, so I glared at it and asked, "What the fuck do you want?" It shifted again, faster, and began to grow in size and gradually got darker and darker in tone, from a Caucasian tone to this dark green color. Soon it shaped itself into this centipede body, with a human torso, scorpion tail with stinger, and a human face with this three-pronged frill on top of its head. Its mouth was stretched out like taffy by these insect-like legs, causing this really narrow but wide mouth, that filled with what seemed like hundreds of these insect appendages, like teeth for its mouth. It responded with this incredibly deafening screech that woke me up because it sounded like it was coming from outside my dream, like it was actually in front of me.
Here's mine that I've posted a few times here before. Wake up, feel a certain vibe of evilness in the room, feel this evilness get stronger. Suddenly a shadow man appears next to me at my bed. I close my eyes and duck my head into my bed sheets. I could still move. My head is forced back onto the pillow, and I'm pinned down by the shoulders. This entity grappled me by the underarms and shoulders and pulled me up into the bedhead, yet pushed me down into the mattress. He then starts choking me. I start hearing distorted conversations floating around me. I then start distorted music, which eventually turns into "Love Me 2 Times" by The Doors in reverse or something. The conversations get more loud and intense. By now I'm extremely scared and begin to pray, which up until that point I'd never really done. I hear a voice, the only I could really pick out from the sea of conversations. It said, "I know who you are." The entity, voices, and music then left. I get this sort of thing happening to me every few weeks or so, but this is one of the more intense episodes I've had.
Thank you for this thread. Now I won't have to make one myself. I've occasionally visited X for years, so what I know about shadow people is only what I've read here. I myself had never had any experience with them. Until 2 days ago. Be around 2 a.m. Have my uni thesis defense in the morning. Completely underprepared and extremely nervous about it. I'm usually never nervous about these things. Tired, too, so decide to take a 2-hour nap. Get on my bed on my back with my clothes on and immediately fall asleep. Lights are on also, but very dim. Next thing I know I'm having a POV dream with 3 people telling me about hearts. 2 male and 1 female. The female is telling me how she wants to win someone's heart. Then they start talking about brains. I suddenly realize they haven't been talking about love, they've been telling me about consuming organs. Freak out, wake up. Can't move. See a shadow person looking over me by my bedroom door, which is open. It felt like I could see its eyes, but it didn't have any. Immediately think that's the fucking shadow guy with the hat I've been reading about on X all these years. Fear disappears. Instead I feel something like a relief that finally I've seen what everyone has been talking about. At the same time I regain the ability to move. Jump down from my bed from excitement, but the shadow guy is long gone by the time my feet hit the floor. Can anyone explain me what exactly happened? As I said, such things never happened to me, so now I'm really curious. Is the dream somehow linked with the shadow?
The fuck just happened? Mate speeds off, scared as shit. Look across the road, see figure in opposite driveway. Piss bolt inside. Text mate about 5 minutes later, says he saw it too when lights blew. Be me about 2 years ago. Me and mate driving home from movies around 11 p.m. He drops me off out front of my place. I live on about a 2 kilometers stretch of road with a street light out front of my place. As I hop out I hear a huge bang. Commence sitting myself. Every single street light in the street blacks out, bar one. The one I'm standing under, outside my house remains lit.